Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's HH Barnum webinar, Game-Changing Industry 4.0 Safety Diagnostics. My name is Cody Dawson, and before we get started, let me express our sincere appreciation for you carving out a few minutes of your day to be with us. Thank you for being here. If we have time afterwards, we'll be answering some questions at the end of today's presentation, but feel free to enter any specific questions you have by using the Zoom Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If we aren't able to answer your question by the end of the session, we'll be sure to follow up personally afterwards. As a reminder, a recording of this webinar will be uploaded to the Barnum website next week for on-demand access. All right, let's dive in. As many of you know, machine safety control can be one of the most frustrating and challenging aspects of industrial automation. Hard-to-wire safety relays and troubleshooting adventures can take up way too much time and money until now. This Barnum Banner Engineering webinar will cover Banner's revolutionary in-series diagnostic technology, which we're simplifying by calling ISD. ISD safety devices make it easy to access diagnostic data from devices in a safety system without special equipment or designated cabling. Users can troubleshoot issues, prevent system faults, and reduce equipment downtime. This innovative next-generation technology is exclusive to safety devices from Banner Engineering and includes the SC10 safety controller, RFID safety switches, E-Stop buttons, and more. And to learn about this awesome safety solution, we welcome Aaron Bigger, Banner's Channel Development Engineer for our Great Lakes region, and John Klesk, Banner's Senior Product Manager for Safety. John, Aaron, let's get started.
All right, Cody. Cody, thank you for that introduction. That's fantastic. My name's John Klesk, and I'm the product manager for Banner Safety Products. We got Aaron with us today as well from Banner. We thank you all for joining us, and thanks to the Barnum team for inviting us into another webinar to share some of our great innovations. I mean, overall at Banner, what my role is as a product manager is I go out and do market research to identify what new products we're going to bring into the family. And really the overall objectives when I'm doing that is to find areas where we can meet customer needs. We want to solve issues you're dealing with. And when we do that, we make our products easy to use and deliver on value. And overall in our portfolio, we have a number of safety products. We're not going to hit all of them today, but we do light curtains that can detect fingers to hands to bodies. We have our safety laser scanner down here in the bottom corner. That's a fantastic product that was introduced in the last year and a half. Very easy to use. It has a front full color display to make it easy to troubleshoot. We also have a whole host of other products, including our E-Stops and safety switches and our safety controller, which is going to be the area we'll focus on today. Now, a few months back, the Barnum team invited me to host a webinar to talk about one of our game-changing innovations. That was our new SC10 hybrid safety controller. That's this little yellow box on the left. And that product really has been a game changer for this industry. And it's key to what we're going to talk about today in the in-series diagnostics or ISD new feature we've added. So overall with the SC10, what we did is we identified a gap in the market. There was expandable safety controllers, and we have a fantastic one. Customers love our expandable controller, just in the fact that it's really easy to use. It's flexible. It can have up to 154 inputs. It has Industry 4.0 communication with Ethernet IP, Profinet, Modbus, and our software is free, right? So it's been a great product. But what we identified was we weren't able to go after machines or get into machines with less than 4 safety relays. And over here on the left, so what people are typically doing on smaller machines is they're using safety relays. And the advantage of them is they have fixed logic, they're inexpensive, but there was just this gap in the middle. And that's where we developed the SC10 to fill it in. And it's been a huge success for Banner. It saved customers a lot of money, and it also stepped up the game for their machines. Because what we've done with that is we took 2 independent 6-amp safety relays and we stuck it in the right side of this box. So this is a 6 amp relay here, and this is a second independent 6 amp relay output here. And then on the left side, we took the same PC configured logic, and you can configure 10 inputs on the input side of it with that same easy to use software, free software that we have on the expandable controller. And it has Industry 4.0 diagnostics at Ethernet IP, Profinet, and Modbus. So this has been a game changer. If you haven't seen it, I know the Barnum crew hosts our webinars from before. We got some good materials on that. And overall, from a high level, again, it's 10 inputs, free PC software, and then for the controller itself, it has 2 independent safe zones where you have a 6 amp relay on output 1 and a second one on output 2. And they each have 3 normally open sets of contacts and the Ethernet IP, Profinet, and Modbus for diagnostics.
John, I wanted to interject. This is Aaron. I just wanted to underline the fact 6 amp contacts in this type of module is an industry first. And what that allows you to do is it gives you the same flexibility as a safety relay in interfacing this module to pretty much any type of solenoid, any type of contactor. So you've got a lot of flexibility there on the interface side. That you have those high capacity contacts at your disposal. That's very, very unique in the industry right now.
Yeah, it's a great point, and we come across that. I mean, it's every day. I'm getting different customers and salespeople reaching out to me because this is people don't really realize that. And the confusing part is, with redundancy. When you talk about 2 of anything in safety, they always think, oh, it's just redundancy. No, we actually have 2 independent 6 amp relays, and there's nothing else like this. And what we also wanted to do is make sure that it could fit into the game from a price perspective. So this SE10 list price is $450. So it's really it's a unique option. And even if ISD isn't a fit for your particular machine that we're going to get into in a second, this thing fits a lot of machines and really makes it so when you're looking at your next design, why not use a safety controller or a hybrid like the SE10? So one of the examples that we found in some of the early research when we developed this product was machines like this, where you got a light curtain and an E-stop, and the light curtain has its own relay, and so does the E-stop. Again, an expandable controller wouldn't fit in here, but now with the SE10, you can simply drop it in. It's a drop-in replacement. It's the size of 2 safety relays, so it fits in your cabinet just like you would before. You can easily wire it in. And then the other thing is with Industry 4.0, Diagnostics, our industrial protocol, you can actually do a virtual reset from a touchscreen HMI back to the SE10 and eliminate hardwired reset buttons like the one you'd use to reset an E-stop. And then you can also get diagnostics up to this as well from the Industry 4.0 communication. Tell if a light curtain tripped or an E-stop can be displayed. Now, even on a more complicated machine like this, where in this case, there's a total of 4 safety relays. And the reason they're doing that is you'd have light curtain 1 over here. It has its own safety relay. And so does light curtain 2. The E-stops have their own relay. And the door switches, because they're a different type of product, also have their own relay. So whether you open a door or something goes through the light curtains, you're going to stop the hazard inside the machine. And then if an E-stop is pressed, that's a separate safe output, and they're typically shutting off power to the entire machine. Now, with the, I have a bunch of wires drawn on here because what this customer is doing on the HMI, they're able to display the status of each one of the safety devices here so they can quickly identify what door is open, what E-stop was pressed to reduce downtime. So up on this display, you can see that this door is open, this E-stop was pressed. And the way they're doing that is they're running independent wires from each one of these devices back to the cabinet. They combine all the safety signals and connect them into the safe relay, like they do that for the doors here and the E-stops over here. But then what they're doing is they're taking the auxiliary wires from each one of those devices and wiring them into an input card on the PLC. So the 6 doors are wired in here, and then also the E-stop auxiliary wires are here. The controls engineer will then program the PLC to coordinate with that I/O to make this cool display on the HMI. So with the SE10, we can simply put something in that's half the size, much lower in cost. You can even replace that reset button like you saw automatically happen on this PowerPoint and do that from the touchscreen HMI, eliminating a button, and save a lot of money. And that's just what with the SE10. The value it adds is substantial. Taking out relays, taking out a reset button, and then adding Industry 4.0 diagnostics, and even using the same safety controller across the board for simple machines and this machine as well. So you're simplifying overall inventory. But when we introduced the SE10, we identified there's another unmet need here. There are a lot of wires that are being sent back into the cabinet to be able to create this really cool view on the HMI. So what we have now is a solution to go and address that. So what we can do is we can clean up that nest of wiring mess that causes control engineers to spend way more time than they like troubleshooting. And we can simplify it, drop an I/O card, do all that with in-series diagnostics. And the way that works is we have devices that can be connected with a T connector and a standard 4-pin cable where you could run all of the doors, up to 32 of them actually, with T connectors and a 4-pin cable. 2 wires go into the SE10 and 2 go to power. For the E-Stops, you use that exact same simple T connector, 4-pin cables, and run all them back also into this SE10. And what happens then is that the devices can speak the language of ISD. So in-series diagnostics is a Banner protocol, a diagnostic protocol, where it can tell everything about the sensor to the SE10. And then the SE10 turns it into PLC language, Ethernet IP, Profinet, or Modbus. So it'll just simply tell it all the data you need to create the really cool display that's hidden behind this reset button to tell you what door is open and what E-stop is pressed. And we can even add in devices like this panel mounted E-stop into the chain with this other product we call ISD Connect. So you can have your entire E-stop chain run in over 2 wires at the highest level of safety and get diagnostic status from each. It's a super powerful system with a very cost-effective controller. So at the highest level, what we're doing with in-series diagnostics is we have devices that can speak this language to the SE10. So our Illuminated E-Stops, super popular product for us, they have ISD built into them. Our RFID Door Switches and this product, the ISD Connect, they speak to the SE10, the language of ISD. And then the SE10 translates that into the PLC speak. So on the PLC and HMI, you get all the sensor level data. No masters required. And what we can do with that, since we have a sensor talking to essentially directly to the PLC, it can give more information than just simply telling you what E-stop was pressed and what door was open. This is an important piece, right, for the end user. Like, I want to reduce downtime. I want to get quickly to the door that caused the problem or to the E-stop that has been pressed. But what we can also do is send alerts to prevent downtime. So when the RFID door switch, that door starts to sag and it's right in that marginal range, we can send an alert to the PLC so there can be preventative maintenance done on the machine before you have downtime. We can also alert of a low voltage situation. So that could be a power supply issue, that could be a wiring issue, and that'll simply, again, save time. You can schedule maintenance and not have it shut down the system. And this overall ISD setup, it's going to reduce cost and time to implement in the machines. We've created things that make the PLC integration easy with an export tag feature. I'll show you that in a demo here in a second. We also use those inexpensive T connectors and 4-pin cables. And just overall, it's a system that makes life easy for setup. All of our devices are plug and play. The E-Stops are fully assembled. The RFID switches, they all have M12 QDs. I mean, it's just plug in and away you go. So this is an overall system view of ISD. So on a $450 list price controller, you can get 64 ISD devices connected into it, and you still have 6 available input terminals available for safety sensors. So you could add a scanner, you could add a light curtain. We had 2 light curtains in that other example I shared. You can even, with those 6 available inputs, 4 of them can actually be turned into outputs. And we have customers using that to control tower lights or to do other things like that to make the overall system more intuitive and unique.
I think it's worth mentioning here too that with these ISD chains, they are all controlling the same zone. So just kind of like analogous to a cascaded light curtain where you've got multiple light curtains connected together. They all control the same safe output. So you're going to get individual diagnostic information from each piece, but the safety is all connected.
Yeah, Aaron, I love that example. So if you look at the 64 ISD devices, so we've got 32 on this first chain. The second chain can also have 32. And if any one of these devices is off, like on a cascaded light curtain, like Aaron brought up, if any one of the light curtains would be tripped, then that entire chain is off. So treat all 32 devices here as one safety device. So press this E-stop and then it'll turn the OSSDs off. But over ISD, it tells you exactly what's going on with every one of them down to the system level data.
And you could actually mix and match gate switches and E-stops on the same chain if that made sense for you as well. And they don't have to be all the same device in one chain.
Absolutely, that's another great point. So like we've got a couple devices mixed here. You see an E-stop with the ISD connect. But there's no reason why you couldn't put an RFID switch in this mix as well and have a combination of whatever makes the most sense for the application. So that's a really good point. And again, we've got the two safe outputs, independent zones, right, that are 6 amps each. So, in this case, and this is probably more likely what people would do is you take all your E-stops in one chain, like that panel mounted E-stop we showed on the previous example goes into an ISD connect. You put a bunch of these cool illuminated E-stops around the machine, and that controls this safe output zone here. And then for all the doors, you'd have it go in on another chain, and you could put mechanical switches in and whatever you want, or RFID door switches, and then they would control this other output. So the hazard gets controlled here, this shuts off power, and you've got a system, and then it communicates over our protocols here on what's going on with the entire system. So you can say, in this case, it's E-stop number 2 was pressed. So, and then setup, I mentioned it's really easy. I mean, this system, and I'll show you the software in a bit here in the demo, but it's really easy to set that up. But then to put everything together, you start out with the termination plug, and that connects in. And then you have T connectors for the ISD devices. The ISD Connect is a T connector as well, so it's an all-in-one unit. But for our RFID door switches and the E-stops, they use the same little T connector. And then there's standard 4-pin cables that connect everything together. If you have a device with a local reset, like shown here for the RFID door switch, we have a simple T connector, so you can connect a button into it to reset this, if that made sense for your application. And overall, the devices, I mean, we've got, like any RFID door switch on the market, I mean, it's a great technology. I mean, it's the most forgiving technology on the market for sensing doors. It's got great misalignment tolerance. It doesn't have any issues with metal shavings and all that fun stuff. But what we've done different in this with ISD, since we have a sensor talking to the PLC, you can actually prevent downtime. It can tell you when that door is starting to sag, and that is an industry first. No one else is doing that on the market. The other thing we can do is we can turn this safety sensor into a RFID reader. So you can actually turn it into a process sensor to add the ability to read an RFID tag. An example of that would be like if you had, and I'll show this in a demo, but if you had a machine with multiple tools, that you want from a process perspective to ensure the right tools in place before the machine runs, you could add one of our RFID door sensors in there and put a bunch of tags on the different tools and use that data and link it in with either the E-Stop chain or a door switch chain and get that information back to the PLC, which is really, really cool, really powerful and inexpensive way to create a great system. On our Illuminated E-Stops, we've actually, this is a patented product for Banner. We introduced this, geez, it's been like 7 years ago now. And we updated it now. So the Illuminated E-Stop has been super powerful. You see them all over the place. They are very bright. They can indicate locally what's going on. When they're powered up and they're armed, you can get them in yellow, green, like we're showing here. And then when you press them, they flash red. And we assemble the entire thing for you. So all you simply have to do is connect a cable to it, and it's ready to go. And now the ISD versions have OSSD outputs. This is actually the industry first, like it's an intelligent Illuminated E-Stop, which is really neat. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then ISD Connect, like you saw in the example, you can add in non-ISD safety devices to a chain. Just gives you a little more flexibility if you want to add other things into it.
And the inputs on that are mechanical relay, isolated relays, not solid state devices, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, so you'd have, two normally closed sets of contacts that go into it. And it's a safety device. The outputs of this thing are OSSD outputs, but the inputs to it from the non-ISD safety device are two normally closed sets of contacts. Now the RFID door switches that we offer them in a number of different flavors, but really what we have for the ISD system, you can get it with or without a local reset. And then also we offer different levels of coding. And that would just be if you want to have a higher level of tamper resistance, you can have it where the sensor only recognizes one actuator. That's unique. Low coded means any Banner actuator will work with the sensor. And then we have something in between where you can essentially mess up 12 times. And so you can train it up to 12 times. It only remembers the last one you train. So that's what all that means. But really it's a great product, and you can daisy chain all these together and achieve the highest level of safety with only 2 wires, which is really powerful, up to 32 of them. This again shows the Illuminated E-Stop. I have kind of a fun animation here. It's not like my best work, but here we go. So what will happen if you have 3 E-Stops in a chain? If you press the E-Stop, the one that's pressed, it'll flash red. The other ones you'll see that are armed. So it's very clear what E-Stop was pressed. In this case, here's our yellow. So you can also do that in yellow, right? So the ones that are yellow are good, and the red one flashing here is the one that was pressed. So locally, you know what's going on, but with ISD, you can also send that to the PLC and HMI. So right there on the HMI, it'll show on the machine, go here. And then when you get there, this thing's flashing at you. So it makes downtime, reduction of downtime, much easier to do. Now in our, we offer this in a flush mount. So that's a square one. So you can just basically connect it right onto the machine. We have a 30 millimeter round hole option. We got some brackets for it as well if you want to mount it like shown here. And we even have this cover down at the bottom that you can add onto the round E-Stop to give it an IP69 rating. And that's been a very popular accessory. Actually had another recent example where they're using this in a rock quarry, and they decided to add this cover to it just to give it an additional level of protection. They're not doing a wash down in that case, but they just wanted to add that to it to give it a little more robustness and protection. And in this one, we also offer this with a reset.
That's pretty unique. How does that work, John?
So this is kind of it. Actually, it's very unique, and the reason we were able to even do this is because you have an intelligent E-Stop. This E-Stop actually has 3 micros in it, which is pretty cool. And with that means you can actually have reset logic built into the E-Stop. And I've got a slide because like this feature, because it's really new, it takes a little more explaining. So I've got an animation here, another one of my great animations, right? So overall, I mean, when you get down to an e-stop, the mushroom button, the red button that you pressed in, it latches, right? So then to unlatch it, you twist it typically, or you pull it out. So that's one of the latching functions, but you need a second one. And a lot of times you'll do that, at the safety controller, like you've seen that virtual manual reset I've mentioned probably like 5 times now in this presentation. That's one way to do it. But there is a need where you maybe want to do it locally. And why you might want to do that is, as Aaron mentioned before, you can combine door switches and e-stops in the same chain. And you may want to have it where the doors, every time you open and close them, you don't want to have to reset it. But the e-stop, you need a secondary means of doing it. So that's one reason you might want to do it, is have e-stops and door switches in the same ISD chain. It might be for convenience, just in running wires, and it helps out there. Another reason that if you don't have clear visibility for the e-stop zone, and we're going to do a reset, maybe like on the HMI, you don't have clear visibility, you may want to do it locally for that reason as well. So the animation, so much more into visuals, right? So for the SE10, if you look at the typical way that our Illuminated E-Stops will likely be deployed is in a global reset. So like in this case, again, I'm showing you've got 3 Illuminated E-Stops and then ISD connects hooked to the panel mounted E-Stop. And the way this system works, if I press this E-Stop, you'll see that the entire chain, like Aaron mentioned, like if this is a bunch of light curtains, right? It's like you tripped one of the light curtains in the chain. The OSSDs for this whole chain turn off. You see that here. And it also turns off in logic the safety zone. Now, what's really cool with ISD is we can tell you which one caused the issue, right? On the HMI, you're getting this data, right, to say, oh, it's E-Stop 2. So now you know where to look. And then this thing's flashing at you. So if you can't find that, then you get bigger problems, right? So then on a global reset, after you arm, so back here, if I twist this red button and arm it, you'll see that the OSSDs have now turned on. So this chain is on, but you see the output's still off. And that's because the latch reset function is done inside the SE10. It's done with this virtual reset. So here comes my hand. I hit the button on the touchscreen HMI, and it resets the system. And now my safety zone 1 is going. So this is how people will typically do it if you have a bunch of E-stops in a chain. Now, if we go over to this example, and this is where I can see a local reset being beneficial. So maybe you say, hey, I've got a bunch of door switches and I have an e-stop. And in this case, if any of these doors open or the e-stop is pressed, I'm going to take the same safety action, get the same safe zone turning off and on. So like if I open up door 2, I want that zone to turn off. If I close it, I want to have it turn on. If I open up door 1, what's behind door number 1? You can see it up here. ISD tells you that, and you close it and everything's good. Now, if I go in and I hit the e-stop, it's going to, again, stop everything, right? Any of these things turn off, that whole thing turns off. And it tells you over ISD that, hey, go check out chain number 2, that e-stop was pressed. Now, if I arm this e-stop, watch this, okay? I arm the e-stop. Now you see that the chain is still off, right? So with the chain being off, the output's also off, but it's telling you locally that you have to reset this e-stop on chain 2. So go ahead and simply hit that reset button, and boom, now you've got that safety zone 2 turns on. So that's what a local reset does. And that's essentially the difference between the two. So you've got a global reset up here and a local down on the bottom, and that's kind of how the two operate and why you'd have that feature.
Obviously, just gives you a lot of flexibility on where resets are and how they're enunciated.
That's exactly right. So for ISD Connect, you saw in that example for the e-stop, and also on the door switches, you can add in a two sets of normally closed contact device mechanical door switch or panel mounted e-stop to a chain. That's what this allows for. We're going to have this out at the end of the year. Looks like around November timeframe. This will be available to add into the overall system. All right, so with that, I have a live demo we can go through, and I'm just going to switch over to that real quick. And what we have in this demo is chain 1 with 2 RFID door switches and they're connected with T connectors, and you see the termination plug here. So the 4 wires, 2 go to power, 2 go into the SE10. Then now over here, I have the second ISD chain, and this is the E-Stops. I got a panel mounted E-Stop here that's wired into ISD Connect. And then our 2 different flavors of E-Stops connected to the T connectors, and then again, the 2 wires go into it. I also have a safety light curtain connected in here just for fun. So the way the system works, and this is the Banner safety controller software. We're running it in live mode on this ISD screen to show you the status of everything going on. So what you'll see is you can simply open and close a door, and what it's going to do over ISD is going to tell you that door number 2 was open. Now I mentioned, now if I close it, now you see the OSSDs here are on, the whole chain's ready to go. Now I mentioned a few times that you can also get an alert when this thing is right on the edge of tripping. So this actuator here now is this thing's like right on the edge, is at 14.8 millimeters. And you can go out, and it's almost at 15, right? So you can go out and adjust that before it causes downtime. Now, the other thing you'll notice on here, and I mentioned this about using this as a process RFID tag reader. So I have 2 different actuators, and this is a low-coded sensor. So it can accept any Banner actuator. So if I add this one to it, what you'll see is it says, hey, I detect an actuator. Now what the PLC can do is say, that's great, tell me which one it is. And in this case, it'll tell you the receive code is ACEB. Now that could be for tool number 1. Now, if I go to the U coded or uniquely coded one, I add that in, and it takes a few seconds, and then it detects the actuator, and then you'll see that now it's changed to 8E37. So that could be programmed to tool number 2. So what you could do is you could actually have this be from a process standpoint, your RFID tag reader, and then have maybe if there's a safety door, this could be the safety door that's in there. Or you could even add it to an E-Stop chain if that makes more sense, and have the ability to get RFID tag reader and safety stuff all combined on a very cost-effective system. Now you can see in our E-Stops, and this video doesn't really do it justice. I have a pretty good camera, but not great. But this thing, it's really bright. My kids love coming in here and playing with this thing, but it's super bright, and it'll tell you the status. You'll see that on the screen. Now, what we've also done in the system is when you're first doing your commissioning of it, if you forget the terminator, this thing will alert at the HMI that it's missing a terminator. So you can simply go plug it in. Now, that could also be beneficial for an end user if they have somebody that realizes that they can take this terminator out and go on break. Well, you'll quickly know that that was the case. Now, on a sensor like the RFID sensor, where it's expecting a certain actuator, it detects the wrong one, it'll tell you that. If you forgot to train it, it'll tell you which one needs to be trained and where it's located. And it can even detect if you have, if I go down here and click on this, it'll tell you if you have the wrong number of devices. So someone decides to try to wire around one of the switches, it'll let you know that. It can tell you if it's in the wrong order. If you planned it out to do one thing, it does another. So it has a lot of very good information to just make overall the commissioning of a machine much quicker and easier, and also the build of it. And then when it gets implemented, it also has the ability to help you quickly identify something that has gone wrong and quickly fix it. So that's our live mode, and I'm going to blow this up real quick because creating a system is super easy. Now, our software is free. It's the same for the SE10 and the XS26. And when you go to create a system in an ISD, we added this new little spot here for an ISD device. And I mentioned this a few times, you can have up to 32 devices. So in this case, I'm gonna pick 2, and they're gonna be door switches. And I'll call this and give it a name. So this is my ISD door chain. And then now if I wanna add another chain, again, up to 32 devices, here I can add an E-Stop, and maybe I wanna do an ISD connect. And boom, that's done. So now in this system, my E-Stop chain's down here, my door's up here. For my doors, I simply want to connect them to that first 6 amp relay output. And then for my E-Stop chain, I'm going to do a global virtual manual reset. So I'll add that in here. This is the touchscreen HMI, right? does that. And then for logic, I got my latch reset function block, and you go in and connect, you connect the chain into it and the virtual reset here. And I simply connect that over here to the second 6 amp safety output. And then I can even go in and simulate, which is fantastic, right? You want to be able to simulate the system. So before I go do that, I'll put everything kind of in its normal state, run the simulator. You'll see that when the door is open and closed, the output follows it, just like I planned. And now for the E-stop, you see this is still off because I need to do that virtual manual reset from the HMI. So now I can verify this thing works as planned, which it does. In my wire diagram, this is a great view. It shows you where to plug in all your wires, and it can even tell you what's going on with the system, right? So it's kind of a nice troubleshooting piece. You can even print this off and export it into a PDF and put this in your own drawing to save time. For interladder logic, it shows you that. And then for industrial Ethernet, this comes equipped with Modbus, Ethernet IP, and Profinet. You just got to select it from the menu. So if I pick Ethernet IP, auto configure, and we've got this really cool feature that can export all the tags to a CSV file. And what you can do with that is simply import it into the PLC, and everything gets automatically named, which is a huge time saver and eliminates any potential challenges.
We've got very complete documentation on all these features too to help you implement this stuff quickly.
So that's really like a quick software demo. Now we also have an option. So if you're looking for, if you have IO-Link on your machine, you're like, hey, maybe in this case I don't need a safety controller. We do have the ability to add in IO-Link to a system. So what you do with a single chain of up to 32 devices, the safety side goes into a safety relay or safety PLC if that's what you're using. And we have an option either outside the cabinet, IP67 rated, that would translate ISD into IO-Link, and then you can send that to an IO-Link master, and then that communicates with the PLC and HMI. And then we also have an IP20 in cabinet option that does the same thing, same idea. You get the 32 ISD devices per chain. So that's a solution that's available. So you can go with our all-in-one safety controller directly to the PLC solution. It goes ISD directly to the PLC language, and you get up to 64 devices, or you have this option where you can do a safety relay or safety PLC and have IO-Link go into an IO-Link master. So overall, that's what I had to share with this new innovation, the SE10 and ISD. No, Aaron, if we had any more questions that came in from.
Yeah, we've got a couple quick questions we can respond to. One was in that ISD chain, is there any response time issues? As you add devices, does that impact the response time?
Yeah, there's a slight increase, a few millisecond increase to each device added, but overall, since they're door switches and E-stops, mechanical switches, that isn't a big deal. It isn't like a light curtain where you're trying to set it very close to the hazard. It falls within the requirements and the needs that you'll typically have on a machine.
All right, very good. And then someone's also wondering if they can control a locking solenoid switch via ISD.
So with ISD, we can actually, with ISD Connect, we can take the contacts into it. So we're able to identify if that locking switch was the one that is tripped or not, and also get the highest level of safety, from the contacts back to the controller. But as far as the locking signal, what we do with that with ISD is you'd have that run from the device that's controlling the lock, and that's pretty typical. Usually with the current level required to control a lot of the locking solenoids, you're going to want to run an independent line like we do with an ISD system.
Fantastic. Awesome. Other than that, they were just looking for a sample to evaluate. Yeah, we do have the ability. Barnum can work with you to get your hardware if you need evaluation or try before you buy, that kind of thing. So yeah, we should be easy to work with in that respect.
Good questions, great technology. John, Aaron, thank you both. As you already know, here at Barnum, we're big believers in Industry 4.0 and in using data to find efficiencies in the automation process. And this ISD technology from Banner, it really is a game changer because it not only achieves those goals, but it simplifies machine safety to make the process easier for our customers. And with a full lineup of gate switches, light curtains, E-Stops, and more, and the absolute simplicity of this Banner ISD technology, you and your team can safely take safety to a whole new level, one that saves you time and money. Your Barnum salesman can get demos of these ISD products on site or via virtual demo. We have stock on common configurations at our Barnum warehouse in Brighton, and Banner's got hundreds more at their headquarters in Minneapolis. So, give your Barnum salesman a call, ask for the Banner ISD. We want to thank everyone again for attending today and for your continued support of HH Barnum and Banner Engineering. Stay tuned for more webinar topics in the coming weeks. In the meantime, be well and stay safe.